As promised, let's turn the spotlight on the cement sector. The first half of the year was a bit of a washout. The street is optimistic. The second half will be far better. To discuss this and more, we have Mr. Sandip Ghose, the MD and CEO of Birla Corp. Hi, Mr. Ghose. Thanks a lot for joining in. Well, tell us, how are you reading the situation? The fear is that the first half of the year was a washout. Are you seeing signs of recovery now on the demand front? And what about pricing? Pricing is at the lowest we've seen in 3 to 4 years at various pockets of the country. Will price increases come about now? Are you seeing that sort of acceptance?
See, contrary to some of my industry peers of very larger concerns, I am I would be very cautious in my projections for the second half. And, some of them, the kind of growth they're projecting for the whole year, if you were to see that, the kind of hockey stick effect you need to have in the second half, to me, seems very, very, bullish. But at the same time, if you were to ask me this question last week and today, I am personally, I think my optimism levels have risen slightly. And I'll explain that to you. And it is not so much for industry factors, but it is a larger socio-political, environment situations. Because, this month, as far as demand goes, it is a festive month. You're right now into the midst of Dussehra, when a lot of North India is affected. By the time you finish, you'll come into close to Diwali. And then today, in November, you'll have Chhat, which is today, it affects cement construction activities across the country, because you have construction workers from North India today traveling all over India, and they tend to go home. And so I would be, cautious about immediate organic demand growth just now. That's my overall feel. See, whatever people talk about the market, until your organic demand picks up, any kind of wishful thinking on prices, etc., to me has to be taken with a load of salt. So you saw some amount of...
So Sandip ji, if you could give us a few numbers. You're sounding far more realistic and far more cautious than most voices on the street. Maybe with good reason as well. You rather project when you have, enough evidence on ground. But as per you, at current reckoning, what are the industry estimates? For this year, what kind of a growth should we be looking at? And do you believe prices have bottomed out?
Prices may have bottomed out. That's correct. But in terms of how, I'll give you two scenarios: an optimistic scenario and a cautious scenario, or conservative scenario, as I'm saying. If it's a conservative scenario, I see the year ending between 5 to 7% industry growth. That is how I see it. The delta, instead of being over, if today, assuming your GDP growth is how people are projecting, even if that comes through, I don't see this time the delta being positive. Delta, there would be minus a percentage or 1.5% over the GDP growth. Therefore, between 5 to 7 is what I think is a reasonable estimate for the year's growth. But if what people are talking about, if in the second half, you see I've heard terms like pent-up demand, if pent-up demand releases, but that pent-up demand can release only in the, individual home builder segment. And that too in the rural economy, because, crops would be nice, a good set of crop, but you've had unseasonal rains. Even now you're having rains in many parts of the country. But given all that, if there are good crops, good returns, you could be having a growth there. But the biggest dampener so far is the government spending on development expenditure. Mind you, make a distinction between infrastructure and development. By development, I mean monies to be released in the rural sector, whether it is in developmental schemes of state governments or state government and central government combined, but central government releases the funds only if the state government puts in their part of it. And that's where I think has been the biggest bottleneck so far. So if those monies come forward, if people start releasing that, instead of diverting it to other welfare schemes, which are, pre-elections and the rest of it, then that traction you will see. Otherwise, you've seen today a shift towards institutional sales. That is the large infrastructure, because that is what has really kept the demand going so far. So overall, at the macro level in the industry,
Mr. Mr. Ghose, we understand that, and that'll be an important shift if it does happen. A couple of key takeaways for us. Number one, you mentioned that pricing has probably made its bottom. You have a very moderate demand growth expectation of 5 to 7%. And now, what is positive for the industry is the fact that there are cost, tailwinds that are pushing in terms of petcoke prices, which have cooled off. So second half of the year, what is the kind of EBITDA per ton realization improvement you can see? And also, in terms of your own incentives, have some of the incentives that you were expecting, has it come through from the government?
I am not going to talk about my company at all because we are in the silent period. And also, in terms of EBITDA improvement,
for the industry, given the fact that there has been moderation.
So moderation, you've had an EBITDA drop by all estimates, which I'm reading. People are expecting an EBITDA drop in the second quarter. I would, if that gets, if there is recovery from that, then one would look at the last quarter, Q4, optimistically, because that's traditionally a quarter where, you have the demand surge, you have the pricing surge, which didn't happen last year for a variety of reasons, elections, etc. This year, if this quarter sort of normalizes, both in terms of you recover the losses in prices, which has happened over the last 3-4 months, as well as the EBITDA drop, which people are putting at an industrial level by what I'm seeing, the analyst estimates all across, they're talking about 150 rupee kind of drop has happened in Q2. If there is, that is made up with some increment of maybe another 50, 100 rupees, then you're there. But again, word of caution, one doesn't know how the Middle East is playing out. So what you were seeing in petcoke, etc., we'll have to hold our horses there.
Right, got it. All right, very quickly, are you interested in Heidelberg Cement?
we are too small people. Today is the situation when every morning you wake up, you keep hearing about some acquisition happening, but that's more of your market-led, I think. People, you find some companies' share prices shooting up, and the next day, a new candidate, your favorite emerges. We are not into.
I would,
that's very
Sandip ji, appreciate your comment on that. That I think I'll take that as a negative. We're not interested in Heidelberg Cement, but I just want to assure you that we are in CNBC-TV18.
I'm not saying interested, disinterested. I'm not in a position to comment. But what I'm saying, I don't get excited personally by every morning there is some new rumor, a new headlines coming. That's today the order of the day in the markets.
Got that, Mr. Sandip. But I'll tell you what, we are at CNBC-TV18, we only put out verified information. And I think, since you'll be tracking the channel as well, rest assured, when we put out something, we're sure. Till then, in fact, we leave it to reports. Appreciate you joining in. All the best for the second half of the year. And we look forward to having a chat with you at the end of the quarterly results, because then you'll not be in silent period.